Okay, so one of our guitars has a broken string, which gives me a good opportunity to talk about changing strings on your guitar. So, so basically, I'm going to change the strings on this guitar, and I'm going to give you a little tip about a good way of doing it. Actually, so tip number one is get one of these string winder. So you can get these in off house really easily. They're always in the little blue bins of guitar stuff, and they make life a lot easier. Seriously, trust me, these things are worth their weight in gold. So I used to change one string at a time, but nowadays I just loosen them all off and change them all at once. A benefit of doing it like this is you can actually treat the fingerboard if you need to. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm slackening off all the strings, like so. All the strings that are left anyway. Alright, now all the strings are kind of floppy, as you can see. Okay, pair of these from Daiso, 100 yen or whatever. Fantastic. So little side cutters basically. So you can chop the strings. It's a lot easier than trying to undo it. Don't do this while the strings are under tension, right? You have to slacken them first. Otherwise, the danger is you'll get the end in your eye, and you really don't want that. So then this end we can poke through, hopefully. Don't always come out. If they get stuck, you just have to jiggle them or sometimes poke something in this end to try and get them out. These are a bit awkward. Let's take the back off to get these out actually. Do I have a screwdriver? Must have a screwdriver. Yes, here we go. Okay, so it looks like it might be all right actually. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, these two are coming. That's good. All right. So there's usually a hole in the back where you can take the strings out of, the ball end of the strings, and depends on the type of guitar. Some guitars string from the top, other guitars string from the back, like this one. If you have a tremolo, it's usually more common to string from the back. So I've taken all the strings out now, and then the other end, I'm just going to unwind them from the string posts, like so. A bit messy. There we go. Alright. These things are called string trees, and they keep the string. If you don't have these, what they do is they make more of an angle between here and the nut here. They make more of what's called the break angle. If you don't have those, it can actually rattle and not work so well, because you have a very shallow angle between the tuning peg and here. So you find them quite often especially on this kind of guitar. You don't really find them on Gibson guitars, because on Gibson guitars the headstock is actually leant back. It actually has an angle itself, so you don't need them. But on Fender style guitars, on these Ibanez's and things, then you often find them. Okay, so that's all those off there. Now, while you've got the strings off, a good idea is to put a bit of this stuff on the oh, that's backwards, that's interesting, but anyway, it's lemon oil. Bit of lemon oil on the fingerboard, especially if it's rosewood like this dark one, just to keep it healthy. Don't need much, but just put it on there, leave it on for 15 minutes or something, and then wipe the excess off. The other thing you can do is sometimes these things come loose, these little rings here, these nuts here. Now these ones are actually all tight, I think. Just checking, that one's not. Yeah, they're all basically tight. So quite often you'll find on an old guitar these will be loose and they might rattle. So you just grab a pair of pliers and do them up. All right, let's talk putting on new strings. So this is an electric. On electric, classic string choice is what are called nines. So 9 to 42, 9 is the thin string, 42 is the thick string. On acoustic, you'd probably want to go 12s are standard, so a bit thicker. I usually go for 11s, a bit thinner, easier to play. So these are D'Addario strings, good strings, D'Addarios, last a long time, sound good for a long time, so well worth getting. And they come with these coloured ends which tell you which string is which. You can also kind of tell from the thickness of the string. So, undo the string. So I'm going to do the low E first. Put the other one I don't need over here for the minute. Now, so what I'm going to do is take the guitar, turn it over, put the string through from the back, like that. You probably have to jiggle it around a bit. Comes out here, like this, if you can see. And then at the other end, so basically what we want to do is to obviously wrap it around here. Now there's a little trick to this. I would figure out where that needs to go. I'd go, well, this guitar's got tuning pegs that are quite close together. So on this particular one, I'd probably go about 3 tuning pegs up, something like that. And then I'd chop the string somewhere around there. If your guitar's got more spaced out tuning pegs, or 3 aside, I'd probably go 2 tuning pegs up. That's what I normally do on my other guitars. So somewhere like this, something like that, probably about 3 here. Now, okay, so I'm going to get my choppers, and I'm going to chop here somewhere. All right, so now I've got a string with a little bit extra. That's what we want. Okay, so then here's a good trick. You sometimes find guitars go out of tune, especially if you use the tremolo. One of the reasons they go out of tune is that they have a bit of slack in the windings here, and what happens is that kind of slips. And even if it slips a little bit, that'll put the string out of tune a bit. So one way to try and stop that, and there's a way that I use and seems to be fairly useful, seems to work fairly well, is to lock the string. So you put the string through the tuning peg hole, like this, with a little bit on the other side, and you start to wind it, like this. So, and what you'll see is obviously it's winding up. Now what I do is the first winding I go over the bit of string that's sticking through. Okay, so the first one's going over like that, and then the subsequent windings I go under. So to do that, I will usually move this hand so it's pushing the string down over here. And also I keep some pressure on the string all the time that I'm winding it. What that does is it helps to keep the string taut and mean there's not much slack in here. So I'm actually pulling on the string as I'm winding it. So now I'm going, the other windings are now going under that bit of string that's sticking through. So the idea of that, and I just keep on doing that now, and it'll wind up the excess. The idea of doing that is that once you've tightened up the string, it will pinch that bit that's sticking through between the top winding and the bottom windings, and that should help it stay in tune. Actually, this is probably a bit too much, but it's okay. It's not terrible. All right, so hopefully, let me try and hopefully you can see that. So you've got The winding, you've got one winding on top and then you've got all the rest are underneath. And the reason you put all the rest underneath is, again, to get a good angle. You want, ideally, your string to come from the bottom of the tuning peg. So you get a good angle up and over the nut. That will help not buzz. It'll help the tuning, and it'll help it not to buzz. So, okay, so there's our string. It's on. It's all good. Sometimes it's worth, as on certain guitars and certain bridges, it's worth checking here as you're winding up, because on this one there's not much other place for the string to go, but on some guitars it can end up like catching around the pickups or going into a different part of the bridge, and before you know it, you've tightened it up and then you realise it's in the wrong place. So it's worth having a look here while you're tightening it up. What I like to do is have another guitar around, or maybe have your tuner or a YouTube video, and just check the tuning of the strings as I go, so I get them roughly in tune. So this one is ba, somewhere there, right? So that's roughly in tune. Now it will go out of tune as we put the other strings on and the tension changes, but that's fine. It's basically, it's roughly in. So what I would do from there on this guitar, I won't show you because it's going to take forever, but exactly the same thing. Put the next string on, put it through from the back, that hole there, bring it out the front, put it up here, measure 2-ish tuning pegs along, chop the string, put it through, first winding over the top, subsequent windings underneath, and tighten it to roughly pitch, which on that one would be this. And that's it, and then I would do that all the way up. So, is there anything else to know? If you have a guitar with a tremolo, like this one does, so this is not fixed. It can move, so you can wobble the strings. You'll probably find you have to tune it several times for the tensions to equalize out. So this is actually held inside the body. There's some springs, and they oppose the tension of the strings. And so balancing those two tensions takes a little while usually, so you'll probably find you have to tune it a few times for that to happen. But basically that's it. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else you need to know for other guitars. Fundamentally for electrics, this is it. The only main difference is you sometimes have different styles of bridges, and you sometimes have 3-a-side tuners on Gibson guitars rather than 6 in a line. But fundamentally, this is the thing. And in terms of string sizes, as I said, 9s are an easy choice for electric. They work pretty well on electrics. If you want something a little bit stiffer and easier to, well, they're easier to feel when you're playing, but they're harder to bend. You could go for 10s or even 11s. But once you start getting to 11s and 12s, you're kind of into jazz guitar territory where you don't really bend the strings so much. So I'd recommend 9s or 10s for electric, and probably 11s or 12s for acoustic. And I think that's it. Have a go when you need to. We all need to change strings from time to time, and come and see me if you have any problems, and I'll help you out.